Good day, everyone. My name is Nisi Martinez, and together with my group mates, Henry Jose Obarcar, Gian Quirante, and Milbet Chavez. For today's video, we will be presenting employee relations. Every individual shares a certain relationship with his colleagues at the workplace. The relationship can be between anyone in the organization, between co-workers, between an employee and his superior, between two members in the management, and so on. It is important that the employees share a healthy relationship with each other to deliver their best performance. I believe that individual spends his or her maximum time at the workplace, and his or her fellow workers are the ones with whom he or she spends the maximum hours in a day. No way can he afford to fight with his or her colleagues. Conflicts and misunderstandings only add to tensions and in turn decrease productivity of the individual. So, one needs to discuss so many things at work and needs the advice and suggestions of all to reach the solution which would benefit the individual as well as the organization. So, what is employee relations? Employee relations refers to the relationship shared among the employees in an organization. The employees must be comfortable with each other for a healthy environment at work. It is the prime duty of the superior and the team leaders to discourage conflicts in the team and encourage a healthy relationship among employees. Observation says that a healthy relation among the employees goes a long way in motivating the employees and increasing their confidence and morale. Example for this is that one starts enjoying his or her office and does not take his or her work as a burden. Another is employee feels charged and fresh the whole day and takes each day at work as a new challenge. If the employee have a good relation with the team members, they feel going to office daily. An employee must try his or her level best to adjust with each other and compromise to his or her best extent as possible. For example, if you are an employee and you do not agree to any of your fellow workers' ideas, there are several other ways to convince them. You can sit with them or talk to them in a nice way. Um, you can discuss about what was going on and what needs to be correct. So in this way, he would definitely look up for you and for your advice, your guidance in the future. He would trust you and would definitely come to your help whenever you need him or her. With this, you need a good communication, and it is important in a workplace to have a good communication with each other in order to understand and compromise with each other. One needs to enter his or her office with a positive frame of mind and should not unnecessarily make issues out of small things. It is natural that every human being cannot think the way you think or behave the way you behave. If you also behave in a similar way that the other person is behaving, there is hardly any difference between you and him. It is of utmost importance that employees behave with each other in a cultured way, respect, and learn to trust each other. It is essential that all the employees share a good relation with each other, understand each other's needs and expectations, and work together to accomplish the goals and targets of the organization. It is important also to avoid any conflicts and make issues out of small things because it can give more problem to the organization and it can cause less productivity in the performance of the employee. Moving forward to the importance of employee relations. There are several issues in which an individual cannot take decisions alone. An employee or an individual needs the guidance and advice of others as well. Sometimes employees miss out on important points that their fellow workers may come out with a brilliant idea which would help them to achieve their targets at much faster rate. Before implementing any plan, the pros and cons must be evaluated on an open forum, which every employee has the right to express his or her opinions freely. Work becomes easy if it is shared among all. A healthy relation with the fellow workers would ease the workload and increase the performance productivity of the employee. One cannot do everything on his or her own. Responsibility must be divided among team members to accomplish the assigned task within a stipulated time frame. The organization becomes a happy place to work if the employees work together as a family. An individual tends to lose focus and concentration if his or her mind is always clouded with unnecessary tensions and stress. It has been observed that if people talk and discuss things with each other with respect and good communication, tensions automatically evaporate and one feels better. Also, employees are happier in their job when they have friends at work that they consider as family. It means their job is more fun, enjoyable, and worthwhile. Having friendship at work is about more than just having fun, and it is about pulling together over a common cause and having a sense of purpose. An individual feels motivated in the company of others whom he can trust and fall back on whenever needed. One feels secure and confident and thus delivers his or her best. So, for example, an employee share the secrets with or make chica with the other colleagues, but he should remember how to draw the lines because or how to stop talking because a sense of trust is important in the organization. Healthy employee relations also discourage conflicts and fights among individuals. A good and responsible employee tend to adjust more and stop finding faults in each other. They don't waste their time in meaningless conflicts and disputes. Rather, they concentrate on their work and strive hard to perform better. They start treating each other as friends and try their their best level to compromise and make everyone happy in the organization or in the company. A healthy employee relations reduces the problem of absenteeism at the workplace. So a good employees are more serious towards their work and feel like coming to office daily. They do not take frequent leaves and start enjoying their works. Also, they stop complaining against each other and give their best to the organization. And last, it is wise to share a warm relation with your fellow workers because you never know when you need them. You might need leaves for some personal reasons, so you must have a trusted colleague who you can handle the work on your behalf. And it is important also to have a healthy employee relations to spread positivity around in the environment.
Ethics, justice, and fair treatment in HR management. So, for many managers, recruitment and replacement, training and development, and compensation are the heart of human resource management. But people expect something more. They expect their employers to treat them fairly and to have a safe work environment. So, the main purpose of this topic is to explain ethics, justice, and fair treatment in human resource management. Let's start with ethics. Ethics is the principles of conduct governing an individual or a group. It also refers to rules provided by an external source. Sometimes we were confused between ethics, moral, and law. Now let's differentiate them for thorough understanding. So ethics, just like what I have said earlier, it is the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Examples are the codes of conduct in workplace. Moral, on the other hand, basically it refers to an individual's own principles regarding right or wrong. If wala kay moral compass, pwede nimo i-follow ang ethical codes para naa kay basihan unsay right or wrong. Mostly, imong moral is gikan sa imong pamilya or environment kung asa ka nagdako. Moral is sometimes not ethical. For example, sa mga lawyers, ang iyahang client kay kriminal. So, ang gibuhat sa iyang client is labag jud sa iyahang moral, example nangawat or nang rape. Pero kay lawyer man siya, para professional lawyer man siya, so dapat depensahan jud niya ang iyahang kliyente. Sag unsa pa nakadako iyahang sala. And next is the law, which is the system of rules that a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and may enforce by the imposition of penalties. So, dali lang ni ma-identify kay it is a formal rules made by the government and can be just or unjust. Example sa unjust. Same sa magwad siblings. Guilty na ang suspect pero wala gihapon nakulong kay minor pa and naa sa atong law na ang minors dili pa pwede makulong. Bisag kuan na to iyahang gibuhat, nagpatay og tao. In workplace, ethics is defined as the moral code that guides the behavior of employees with respect to what is right and wrong in regard to conduct and decision making. Ethics is very important in a workplace to ensure positive ambience and leads to happy and satisfied employees. So here are the reasons why ethics is important in employee relation. First, improvement of the society where the employees and employers works in union and with trust and respect. Second, is for a safe workplace, a place where no one will feel threatened and uncomfortable. Lastly, to get motivated. Ethics in workplace ensures positive ambience that leads to happy and satisfied employees. Next is fairness. Fairness is characterized by equity, respect, justice, and stewardship of the shared world. It is concerned with actions, processes, and consequences that are morally right, honorable, and equitable. In essence, the virtue of fairness establishes moral standards for decisions that affects others. Accountability and respect are two things that an employer should possess to even employees to show fairness in the workplace. Accountability, dapat ma-feel jud sa isa ka tao ang sense of responsibility sa iyang trabaho para mabuhat niya og tama og dili siya mag-agad sa laing tao. Respect is very understandable and dapat dili lang pili na tao ang imong respetoon, dapat tanan. Unethical behaviors and nepotism should be avoided to apply fairness in the workplace. Mostly ginabuhat ni sa mga dagko na og ranggo kay usahay gina-overuse na nila ang ilang powers and ginabelital ang uban employees. Especially nepotism kanang mas ginapaboran nila basta kaila or kapamilya para mo'y makasulod sa company or makatrabaho. So, unfair jud kaayo siya para sa uban na nagtarong og apply pero wala nakuha kay dili sila kapamilya or friend. Next is the workplace justice, which is referred to as company policies. It ensures a clear understanding and equitable treatment of employees. So the company will give its employees compensation systems like bonuses, overtime pay, recognition rewards, commission, etc. Employee performance system where they record or track the performance of their employees, equity system na mahatagan sila fair treatment, opportunities, and advancement, and lastly, organizational policies and procedures. With this form, mahatagan nimong hustisya ang kahago og serbisyo sa imuhang employees.
In continuation in the topic workplace justice, it was mentioned earlier that it is a set of policies in an organization to ensure that all employees are treated with fairness and equality. So it is really important to have justice in a workplace so that it will not lead to unethical behavior of employees or any destructive practices within the organization. So if ma-feel man good sa isa ka employees na wala siya ginatreat og tarong, ang tendency ana is mubaba jud ang productivity ug motivation sa isa ka employees. Huna-una sa employees na useless man gapon if I'll do my best. Dili gapon ma-acknowledge ang fruit sa akong hard work. In addition, mag-result pud ni og negative relationship with your co-employees. So dira na mag-start ang mga misunderstanding and all. So let's dive in deeper about this topic for you all to understand it clearly. There's three drivers of workplace justice, namely distributive justice, procedural justice, and interactional justice. Let us first discuss what is distributive justice. So mag-occur na siya no when an employees believe that outcomes are equitable. So if tanang ma-receive sa employees gikan sa ilang employer or sa company are all equal and there's no unfairness. So kani siya ng mga outcomes are either tangible, wani sila mga salary, bonuses, allowances, or also intangible such as promotional opportunities, mga performance evaluations, and feedbacks. So these outcomes can greatly influence on job satisfaction, quality of work life, and organizational effectiveness. So if mo-perceive sa isa ka employees na unfair tanang outcomes na ihang na-receive, it can affect their emotions, cognitions, and as well as their behavior. So in short, makaapekto ni siya sa productivity and motivation sa isa ka employees. It suggests that the perception of distributive justice is associated with allocating resources. In other words, the feeling of fairness depends on such a way that employees perceive that resources have been shared equitably and replenished adequately. Kumbaga, na-distribute or na-divide og tarong ang task ug ang responsibility sa tanang employees equally. So when employees believe that they are being paid or treated equally, then this results in distributive justice. So the second one is procedural justice. Affects how decisions are made and policies are established. It is based on the premise that the most fair and respectful decision will be made. So ang concern sa procedural justice is magbuhat og policies and procedures sa isa ka organization which is i-consider niya tanang perspectives and concerns sa tanang employees. So if naman kita sa isa ka situation wherein there's a conflict between two parties, ang leader or ang manager should be neutral or dapat siya ang mediator, dapat siya ang nasa center. Dapat di siya mag-take og side. So that is how procedural justice work. It suggests that decisions of the leader or manager on that specific conflict between two parties should be neutral, based on fact, and appropriate for the actions. One of the greatest challenges companies face is ensuring there is equity and fair treatment among all rank of employees, regardless of their background, experience, or perceived value to the business. If a policy is created for a division, that policy needs to apply to everyone in that group. When a policy is developed for the entire company, all employees must be held to the same standard. If the policy is altered for different people, procedural justice is not implemented appropriately. Likewise, when policies are created, procedural justice needs to be considered. And the last one is interactional justice. Have you ever had a job where your coworkers also treated you as their friend and your bosses listened to your perspectives? Have you ever felt like you were discriminated against at work? Interactional justice is a standard applied to how employees relate to each other at work. This is not just determining how managers treat their team members, it can also relate to how co-workers and colleagues interact with each other. Establishing standards of conduct is critical to ensuring a high level of respect is shown to employees and that the organization is regarded as fair and safe workplace. So for example, interactions between leaders and an employees. So interactional justice comes in the picture. So ginapertain niya ang right and appropriate behavior that a leader and manager should possess or acquire in executing their decisions and authority over their employees. So, ang manager kasi, they are responsible for creating a positive and productive work environment. So, this requires interacting in an honest, fair, and respectful way with employees. So, when managers or leaders is effectively na-exercise nila ng interactional justice, they are open, consistent, and fair to their employees. So, in short, interactional justice is present in that organization. Employees' negative reactions to unfairness. So it is really normal no na if ma-feel and ma-observe sa isa ka employees nga walay fairness within the organization o katong three drivers of workplace justice is wala na apply. So it will result to a various negative reactions. So here are the following. Perception of workplace fairness is influenced by how their co-workers are treated. Intensity of reactions may vary. Unfairness can make employees sick. Unfairness hurts organization. So, in other words, fair treatment in the workplace include mutual respect, strong interpersonal relationships, and honest communication. Individuals who feel they are being treated unfairly in the workplace can have a low morale, reduced productivity, and poor job satisfaction. It can also result in high turnover. On the other hand, individuals who feel they are treated well by their managers and organizations are often motivated to perform at the higher levels. They have a greater sense of team spirit and overall job satisfaction. Individuals who feel valued and are treated fairly at work are better engaged and more productive. Additionally, it is important to balance flexibility and understand that on an individual level, fair treatment doesn't necessarily mean treating individuals the same. Each individual are unique, so they have different needs, performance levels, personalities, work styles, motivations, and goals. So when you honor their differences, you will be more likely to honor each person for who they are.
Hi, I'm Henry Jose Abarcar, and I'm here to report about labor unions and collective bargaining. Labor unions, also known as labor organization, for the purpose of collective bargaining or mutual aid, interest, cooperation, and protection. A labor union is an organization of employees that is created for the purpose of dealing with employers concerning employee-employer relations, include grievance, labor disputes, wages, rates of pay, hours of employment, and other conditions of work. A labor union negotiates on behalf of its members in a process known as collective bargaining. They are also usually active in the political process and in lobbying about issues of importance to their members. Labor unions in the Philippines are classified as either: first, public sector unions refers to any organization, union, or association of employees in the agencies of government which exists in whole or in part of the purpose of collective negotiation or mutual aid, interest, cooperation, and protection. The purpose of public sector unions are: make government employees aware not only of their rights but also their responsibilities, know not only to make impositions or demands but also to listen to reasons, looks upon management not as rival but as partner to social and economic progress, and lastly, balance its interests and those of the management and the agency as a whole. Next, we have private sector unions. It represents the interests of workers in the private sector, which is made up of members who work in non-governmental industries. This union seeks to protect the rights and interests of workers from corporate abuse. It primarily represents the interests of employees within public sectors or governmental organizations. Refers to any union or association of employees in the private sector which exists in whole or in part of the purpose of collective bargaining or mutual aid, interest, cooperation, protection, and other lawful purposes. Now let's move on to collective bargaining. Collective bargaining, a negotiation process that takes place between an employer and a group of employees when certain issues arises. It is a process where the parties agree to fix and administer terms and conditions of employment which must not be below the minimum standards fixed by law, and set a mechanism for resolving their grievance. It is a bipartite process. Collective bargaining process generally consists of 4 types of activities. First, we have distributive bargaining. involves haggling over the distribution of surplus. Economic issues are discussed. Open parties' gain is another party's loss, tend to be more competitive, also known as conjunctive bargaining. Distributive bargaining is also known as zero-to-sum negotiations because the assets or the resources which need to be distributed are fixed. So all the negotiations will have to happen by taking that into context. The ultimate aim under distributive bargaining approach is not to come to a win-to-win kind of situation, but the one side wins as much as they can. Both parties will try to get the maximum share from the assets or resources which needs to be distributed. We end up using distributive bargaining approach in our daily lives as well as when we shop. Usually, distributive bargaining approach works well with products which do not have a fixed price. For example, if you go to the supermarket and buy some products, you won't be able to bargain because they have fixed price. Either you can buy the product or leave it. Next, we have integrative bargaining. Involves negotiation of an issue on which both parties may gain or at least neither loses. Tends to be more cooperative than distributive bargaining, also known as cooperative bargaining. Integrative bargaining or win-win bargaining is a negotiation strategy in which the involved parties work together to find a solution that satisfies the needs and concerns of each. This process often involves group brainstorming and creative thinking for individuals to suggest different ideas that benefits both parties. Compromising and bargaining is common in integrative negotiation, and both sides may need to give up certain needs to reach a solution. Honesty can also promote successful integrative negotiation because it can lead to a comprehensive understanding of the issue and what each party needs to be satisfied with the result. Next, we have attitudinal bargaining. Involves shaping and reshaping some attitudes like trust or distrust, friendliness, and hostility between labor and management. It develops a bargaining environment and creates trust and cooperation among parties. Attitudinal involves shaping and reshaping of attitudes to positive and cooperative. Examples of attitudinal structuring and shaping may be from hostile to friendly, from non-cooperative to cooperative, from untrust to trust, and so on. The need for attitudinal structuring or shaping is understood by the fact that any backlog or bitterness between the parties leads to bargaining impasse by erupting and destroying negotiation. Therefore, attitudinal structuring is required to maintain smooth and harmonious industrial relations. Attitudinal structuring helps achieve good faith bargaining. Lastly, we have intra-organizational bargaining. Generally aims to resolving internal conflicts. It's a type of maneuvering to achieve consensus with the workers and management. Intra-organizational bargaining, it is a process of bringing consensus with the groups themselves. There are different groups in an organization, by department-wise and level-wise. At times, different groups may perceive the outcomes of collective bargaining process differently. For example, the unskilled workers may feel that they are neglected, or women workers may feel that their interests are not taken into consideration. Not only that, there may be differences even within the management. While personnel manager may support increase in wages, the finance manager may oppose the same ground that will be disturbed by the company's financial position. Given such situation, intra-organizational consensus is required for the smooth acceptance for the agreements arrived at collective bargaining. Thus, intra-organizational bargaining involves maneuvering to achieve consensus with the workers and the management. Now, let's move on to our last topic, which is the 5 core steps of collective bargaining. The collective bargaining is a technique to reach a mutual agreement between the employer and the employees. Here, the representatives of both the parties, the union and the employer, meet and discuss the economic issues such as wage, bonus, number of working hours, and other employment terms. The process of collective bargaining comprises of 5 steps that are followed by both the employee and the employers to reach an amicable solution. First, we have preparation. At the very first step, Both the representatives of each parties prepare the negotiations to be carried out during the meeting. Each member should be well versed with the issues to be raised at the meeting and should have adequate knowledge of the labor laws. The management should be well prepared with the proposal of change required in the employment terms and be ready with the statistical figures to justify its stance. On the other hand, the union must gather adequate information regarding the financial positions of the business along with its ability to pay and prepare a detailed report on the issues and the desires of the workers. Second, we have discussions. Here, both the parties decide the ground rules that will guide the negotiation, and the prime negotiator is from the management team who will lead the discussion. Also, the issues for which the meeting is held are identified at this stage. The issues could be related to the wages, supplementary economic benefits such as pension plans, health insurance, holiday pays, and etc. It could be administrative issues such as health and safety, technological changes, job security, and working conditions. Or it could be institutional issues such as rights and duties or ESOP plans. Third, we have proposal. At this stage, the chief negotiator begins the conversation with an opening statement, and then both the parties put forth their initial demands. This session can be called as brainstorming, where each party gives their opinion that leads to arguments and counter-arguments. Next, we have bargaining. The negotiation begins at this stage, where each party tries to win over the other. The negotiation can go for days until a final agreement is reached. Sometimes both the parties reach an amicable solution soon, but sometimes to settle down the dispute, the third party intervenes into the negotiation in the form of arbitration or adjudication. And lastly, settlement or final agreement. This is the final stage of the collective bargaining process, where both the parties agree to a common solution to the problem discussed so far. Hence, the mutual agreement is formed between the employee and the employer, which is to be signed by each party to give the discussion a universal acceptance. Thus, to get the dispute settled, the management must follow these steps systematically to give equal chance to the workers to speak out their minds. This is Lesson 9, Employee Relations. Thank you so much for listening.